It's impossible to do this for 30 days and then go back to the life you're living now. Today, you'll discover the ultimate protocol to heal your brain from porn addiction and fix all of the negative effects that porn has on your mind, your health, and your life. This is the no-holds-barred, fastest, most effective way to overcome porn addiction and its negative effects, if you're up for the challenge. This is Spartan Mode. I'm about to explain all of the steps in the Spartan Mode protocol, but first there's one thing you absolutely need to understand for this to make sense. There are many parts to this protocol, and as you're going through the video, you might be wondering, what, really all of this? Now, if you think that porn addiction is just a bad habit, you would never design a protocol like this to address it. But you'd also be wrong. Addictive, compulsive behavior is never just a bad habit. And there's no such thing as a purely psychological phenomenon either. That's why in this protocol, we take into account the behavioral and psychological aspects, but we also take into account the physical and lifestyle aspects, which are as important, in some cases even more important. As you probably know, the way I see it, overcoming porn addiction is a healing process. Physically, your body can be either in a state that supports and promotes that healing, or that really gets in the way of healing. So depending on things like diet and lifestyle, you can be in a state of chronic inflammation and high stress, and that puts your body in a state that does not promote healing. If anything, it promotes depression, anxiety, and more addiction. And this isn't just my opinion, by the way. Mental health issues are associated with physical states such as chronic inflammation and with worsened mitochondrial function, among other things. So this wouldn't be the ultimate no-holds-barred protocol for quitting porn if we didn't take lifestyle and physical health factors into account as well. So with that said, let's jump into the exact components of the Spartan Mode protocol. Number 1, quit porn. Of course, the first part here is you need to quit porn. You do it cold turkey, so you don't slowly wean yourself off or something. You just quit porn completely from one day to the next. And when I say quit porn, I mean you stop consuming anything that is sexually stimulating. So whether it's pornographic videos or erotic text or audio or comics or anything else. So the exact type of thing and the source doesn't matter. The point is you're not consuming anything that is sexually stimulating. Here, you want to use environment change and other habit design hacks that I've shared in my other content to make this step easier. But of course, like I said, step 1 is you stop watching porn. Step 2, you stop consuming social media. Social media is a very common trigger for guys, right? You quit porn, but then you're scrolling through social media and you see the bikini pics and so on, and that sends you back to porn. That's one reason to cut it out. You need to be controlling and eliminating the things that trigger you into porn. But the other reason is, even if your social media is completely devoid of hot girls and things that can trigger you, you still want to quit because it is similar to porn, a source of spiky, quick dopamine hits. It gives you that instant gratification. It's designed to hook into your brain and keep you wanting more and more and more. In short, it's a form of unhealthy, addiction-forming dopamine. And as part of Spartan Mode, we're eliminating all of that. So don't make any excuses. Simply delete all the social media apps and do not use it during Spartan Mode. Number 3, you stop consuming entertainment. So that goes for Netflix, movies, shows, video games, and so on. In Spartan Mode, you are not consuming anything entertaining. That even goes for novels. You're not reading anything entertaining. Of course, reading non-fiction is recommended and is good to do even during Spartan Mode, but no consumption of entertainment. Number 4, you will be doing 2 physical training sessions every day. The first one, early in the morning, first thing after you wake up. You do this before having coffee, before having breakfast, before going onto any screen or anything like that. You start your day with a high intensity workout session. Basically, hit the gym, go lift heavy weights, do something like that. Then later in the day, afternoon or evening, insert a second training session. This one should be lower intensity and more skill-based, so where you're learning something new. I recommend dancing, martial arts, yoga, climbing, things like that. We're including all this physical training in the protocol because it's one of the most effective things you can do to increase BDNF in your brain. And that's one of the best things you can do to promote brain growth, brain rewiring, and psychological healing. Number 5, you must have one big, challenging, ambitious project that you work on. So this could be something like starting your own business, or working on organizing an event, starting freelance work, preparing and studying for a difficult certification exam or something like that. There has to be a big project in your life where you're working towards some kind of a milestone. And it has to be challenging. It has to be something that you want to do that makes a difference in your life and that you can pour yourself into. This is, on the one hand, good for controlling how you spend your time. Having something to do, keeping yourself occupied is a great way to stay away from porn. But also, and more importantly, it is training your brain to seek and want this kind of thing as a source of dopamine. So instead of getting the quick hits that we've eliminated, you're training your brain to seek rewards from things like finishing a project, reaching a new milestone, making money, doing something in the real world. Number 6, every day you get sunlight exposure outdoors twice. Once in the morning, ideally close to sunrise. It doesn't have to be right when the sun rises, but when the sun is still at a low angle. You want to be outdoors, and whether it's good weather or bad weather, you're outdoors, you're in the sunlight. Even if it's cloudy, you're still getting sunlight. You're getting sunlight exposure for at least 15 minutes. And then later in the day, close to sunset, when the sun again is at a low angle in the evening, once again, you want to be outside getting sun exposure on your skin for about 15 minutes. Now, on a very cloudy day, if it's generally dark and cloudy, you can't see the sun at all, then ideally you are out even longer. This sunlight exposure is key to setting your circadian rhythm, your biological clock, by which a lot of your internal processes run. And if that clock isn't set correctly, because you're always exposed to artificial light and things like that, it has loads and loads of negative consequences on all kinds of processes in your body. So we're adding these 2 points of sunlight exposure in order to set that clock correctly. Number 7, you avoid all artificial light after 9 p.m. Candlelight is fine, and very, very dim orange or red lights are also fine, but no typical indoor lighting, no overhead lamps, no bright lights, and most importantly, no screens. Number 8, get lots of sleep. The 2 changes with the light exposure are going to lead to much deeper, much more restorative sleep than you usually get. And in fact, that like 99% of people get nowadays. Getting rest, getting sleep is absolutely critical to any kind of self-improvement and healing process. Most of the progress you make happens while you're asleep, right? You put in the work during the day, and then the actual growth and building and getting better happens at night when you're asleep. So not getting enough sleep absolutely nukes your progress. If you're chronically sleep deprived, like most people are nowadays, you're running on like 10% of your potential. So we've done the 2 things with light exposure that will help you get more sleep. But the other thing is also that you prioritize it and you make sure that you spend at least 8 hours in bed so that your body can get 8 hours, maybe even more of sleep. So obviously, if you're only in bed for 7 hours before the alarm goes off, there's no chance that you get enough sleep, even if you do the light exposure stuff. So make sure you have that chunk of the day free to just spend in bed doing nothing. Also taking into account that it takes a bit of extra time to fall asleep. Number 9, meditate for 20 minutes every day. Do a simple mindfulness meditation where you simply follow your breath. You focus on your breath with your eyes closed, and that's all you do. Every time your attention wanders, you bring it back to your breath. I will link to a recommended meditation you can follow. You can make this part of your morning routine, and it's part of the protocol because it helps you develop self-awareness, which is a key component to overcoming addictions. Also, it gives you the opportunity to get many reps, many repetitions of practicing the no-go part of your brain, where basically part of you goes, let's get up, let's quit, let's go do something, let's find a distraction, and you go, no, which is basically the same part of your brain you have to use. And part of you goes, hey, let's watch some porn. And you go, no. Number 10, daily introspective writing. In the evening, last thing before you go to bed, you get pen and paper and you do introspective writing. Ideally, this is candlelit or, like I said, with very dim lights. And you write, and this can be journaling style writing where you just get stuff off your chest through writing. But as part of this practice, doesn't have to be every single day, but as part of this practice, you also want to be doing your shadow work. So you're doing writing sessions where you're very deliberately digging into what's going on. You're finding out, why am I addicted? What part of me wants this? What do I get out of this? Why do I like feeling like a victim and staying stuck in this addiction? And so on and so forth. You can join my Discord completely for free and get access to a shadow work introductory course there that gives you a sense of what this kind of work looks like. This is a really important component of the internal psychological healing that we want to go through in this process. Number 11, at least once a week, spend at least 3 hours disconnected in nature. Disconnected means it's you out in nature, you leave your phone at home or you turn it off. You don't have your headphones on listening to a podcast, you're not listening to music, you don't have any digital stimulation or distraction going on. It's just you in nature walking around, basically doing nothing. As a bonus, every once in a while, invite your friends to do this. It's great to just be outside and get some social time in with people you care about. It shouldn't be all the time because the solitary time in nature, maybe even a bit of boredom out in nature can be extremely good for you. But maybe every other week go alone, every other week go with your friends. Number 12, cut out all sugar and sweeteners. So this is refined sugar, honey, date syrup, whatever artificial sweeteners, whatever healthy sweeteners. Cut out all sweeteners and all sweet things in your food, apart from whole fruit. Sugar is incredibly bad for you, really bad for your metabolic health, but also the sweetness in artificially sweetened foods is a hyperstimulant. It's one of those quick spike of dopamine type things, and that is the thing that we want to wean our brain off of. We want to untrain our brain from wanting that kind of reward. So that's why we're cutting out sugar as well. Number 13, cut out processed foods. In Spartan Mode, you eat whole foods only, which basically means you don't eat things that have a nutrition information packaging label and an ingredients list. The exact composition of what you eat doesn't matter so much for what we're doing here. So, whether you eat a paleo diet or a vegan diet, or whether you get more protein than fat or more fat than protein, whatever. None of that really matters that much for our purpose here. The big difference is from cutting out processed and ultra-processed foods. These are the things that put your body in a state that makes it hard for you to heal. So let's cut out those and don't worry too much about exact macros and stuff like that. An important part here is that in Spartan Mode, you eat to nourish yourself. You don't eat for entertainment. So you're not snacking away at hyper-stimulating, hyper-processed foods. And finally, number 14, there's some supplementation you can add that makes all of this even more effective. Starting with magnesium, ideally in the forms of magnesium chloride and magnesium glycinate, take 400 to 700 milligrams of that per day as a supplement. That's going to be hugely beneficial to loads of processes, including the brain healing process. Next, lion's mane, which is a mushroom. If you can find it, you can buy it fresh and cook it. It's a tasty mushroom, but usually you find it in powdered form, in capsules or something like that. And you want to take between 1 and 3 grams per day of lion's mane. It is incredibly good for your brain, which is already backed up by a decent number of studies. And there are also currently some studies underway under supervision of Paul Stamets that show that it can really support deep brain healing, even with pretty severe conditions. That's why it's part of the stack. Speaking of mushrooms, in general, it's a good idea to include mushrooms in your diet. So portobello, oyster mushrooms, shiitake, whatever you can get. All of these mushrooms are generally good brain food and generally really, really healthy sources of nutrition. So make sure to include them in a couple of meals per week. On a similar note, blueberries and other dark berries are extremely healthful and are one of the few foods that really deserve the label superfood. So make sure you include blueberries and other dark berries in your diet. Final recommendation like this is cruciferous vegetables. That's things like kale, broccoli, watercress, and more. These are anti-inflammatory, which is good for the healing process, and they're generally great sources of micronutrients as well. Next up, it's probably a good idea to include some fish oil or some other omega-3 fatty acid source, possibly as a supplement. And other supplements that could be worth experimenting with are ginkgo biloba and black seed oil or Nigella sativa. And if you want to take this a step further, get a full extensive blood panel done to see if you have any specific deficiencies, and then seek to adjust your diet first and your supplementation second to address those shortcomings. Because again, your physical health, your metabolic health makes a huge difference to how fast or how slow the healing process actually goes. So this is the protocol, and the Spartan challenge is to do all of this every single day for at least 30 days. This is the full set of tools that work synergistically to put your brain and body into healing mode, replace your junk dopamine habits with healthy dopamine sources instead, boost your energy levels, motivation, and mood, and change your brain to start seeking rewards from sustainable, healthy, and life-improving activities instead of from instant gratification consumption. At the same time, you're growing your self-awareness, you're gaining the skill of self-mastery, and every single day you're doing the kind of work to uncover and deal with and resolve the underlying issues that made you an addict in the first place. This protocol shifts you fully into the warrior attitude because you're attacking your problems head on. You're taking full responsibility of what's going on in your life, and you don't shy away from doing the difficult thing. Like I said in the beginning, it's impossible to do this for 30 days and not change your life completely. Now, let me address one thing that you're probably thinking. You're looking at this going, I don't have enough time to do all of this. To which I say, look at your screen time right now. Get out your phone and look at the screen time report and look at that number of hours per day. And realize that in Spartan mode, you'll be reducing that number very close to zero. Now, do you still think you don't have enough time? Listen, of course this is hard to do. Nobody said this would be easy. In fact, it being hard is part of what makes it such a transformative growth experience. The only kind of shortcut that works is one that compresses all of the work, all of the intensity into less time. That's what we're doing here. This is going to be hard and it is going to change you. So, are you up for the challenge? Are there any parts of this that you'd like me to dive deeper into and explain more about? Let me know by leaving a comment below. Also, make sure you don't miss out on my next podcast episode where I'll be talking about the Spartan Mode protocol and how it compares to softer, more gradual approaches and what works best for what kind of person. In the meantime, leave a comment below and then watch this video next.